Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hey parents, welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast. Don Manning here solo today as we move into summer. Today we're going to talk about what it looks like. We're coming off of the coronavirus spring, and we've learned a lot. Everything's been shut down for the first time, at least in my life, and for most of our lives. First time we've really been shut down by something like this virus. I think it's taught us a lot. I want us to ask some questions. We want to talk about really, what I'm talking about is the culture of our homes, because our culture has been rocked by government-imposed things relating to the coronavirus. It said, hey, everything's shut down. And so we have to change. And we had to change literally overnight. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this came out of the blue for our family. It was like, all of a sudden, wow, everything is different. But we've kind of adjusted to a new norm, and now things are starting to loosen up a little bit. And I think it's a great time, parents, to lead your family well through this as we move into the summer, because it's made us reconsider. There's an analogy about the frog in the boiling water. I don't know if you've heard it before, but basically the analogy says that if you throw a frog into the pot of boiling water and it's already boiling, they will jump out because it's hot. But if you put them in there at room temperature and then you raise the heat of the water up, the frog will stay in there and die because they gradually get, they never do know enough to jump out of the heat. And I think that's kind of what's happened to us with activities and social events and everything else in our culture. Is we just wanted to be like everybody else. And so we were as busy as everybody else. We would complain about it, but all of a sudden the virus kind of threw us out of the boiling water. And now some of us are looking back at the boiling water going, I don't know about that boiling water anymore. I don't know if I want to jump back in. And this relates to so many things. It could be everything from activities to social events to even serving in church to, what we're doing with school. It could be, extended family, all kinds of things that we are busy with, and everything's been shut down. And I think if we are good parents at this stage and realize, parents, there's no right answer to this question. I mean, I've had parents that say, oh my goodness, my kid was going to be in a select baseball tournament 3 weekends out of the month this summer, and now I'm not sure if I want to go back to it. And I've had other parents say, man, I can't wait for baseball to restart again. And baseball is just one example. But, there's no right answer here, parents. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say, hey, parents, you need to cut down on your activities or anything like that, because what we want to teach you as parents is how to hear God's voice for your family and how to lead your family well. And you have this great, great opportunity to do that. This summer, as we move into, we've had the adversity of the coronavirus, and the shutdown has led to opportunities to lead your family well and to really ask questions. And that's what, so often we talk about in our Crazy Cool Family book about, and in our podcast and in our, post, to create a safe haven in your home. And we also teach you to hear God's voice for your home and want to follow that God, your family's made unique. Okay, hear that again. Your family is unique. God has a special plan for your family. It's not the same plan that He has for the family down the street or the family in your kid's class or the family at church that looks like so perfect and everything. God has a unique plan for your family. He's given you unique kids. He's given you a unique marriage. He's given you, He's made you unique. And so one of your jobs as a parent is to discern God's voice for your family. And what a great, great opportunity to do that as we move into this summer with our, with these partial restrictions or maybe eventually, full freedoms. We don't know. Or maybe the restrictions come back. We don't know. But it's a great time to ask questions. And so what is something you can do as a parent to figure this out? Well, one of it is just to go ask God. So asking questions to God about what you were supposed to learn. The Bible talks in Ephesians about having a spirit of wisdom and revelation. Well, wisdom is what is from our Bible. It's the things God teaches us that we want to be wise. That's what Proverbs says, be wise. Revelation is God's unique revelation to us about our circumstances and about things that, go beyond what we don't know. Is it God's will that your family, that your son, let's say your 10-year-old son or daughter goes back into playing that sport? We don't know. There's not a right answer to that. It's not like, in Hebrews it says only so many hours of baseball are supposed to be played in a week, or, you're only supposed to play it at this age or whatever. It doesn't say that. So, so you ask questions within your family to try to gauge and ask questions of God. So the first thing is to God, hey, God, what am I supposed to be? How do you want me to lead? God, what questions should I ask? Then maybe start with your spouse. Hey, honey, what are you discerning from this coronavirus spring? What do you think about our family? Have you prayed about it? What are we doing? Should we pray about it together? Let's ask the Lord what's going on. And you see what I'm going here is that, one, we're not arguing and we're not dictating. You don't go to your spouse and go, hey, honey, here's what I think should happen. Now, let's make sure this goes. And your spouse feels run over. Ask questions. First, ask God, get a spirit, even asking God to say, hey, God, give me a spirit of wanting to ask questions. Give me a spirit, show me how to lead my family. Show me how to ask the questions without being a jerk about it and not, forcing my opinion upon everybody. Then, ask your spouse and just have some conversations about it. Some spouses are external processors like me and love to talk about things and love to, just go at it and see and get all kinds of opinions. Some spouses are internal processors. You may ask your spouse these questions. They may say, I need to go think about it. And that's okay. Let them go think about it and then come back. And the key is what kind of attitude are you going to bring to your questions about this? You've got a chance to make huge strides in your family. What are you going to do about it and how are you going to approach it? Once, you've talked to God, you talk to your spouse, start talking to your kids and ask them questions. Hey, you know what? You were doing gymnastics, 3 nights a week. Okay. Now we haven't done that in 2 months. Have you missed it? Well, a little bit or whatever, or no, gosh, Dad, I can't wait to get back to gymnastics. I have all my friends there. I love my teachers. You see what I'm saying? Judge, without, hey, we're thinking about changing your gymnastics routine. What do you think about that? No. That's not going to work. Just, hey, open-ended questions. What do you think about it? And let them talk. So not only are you leading your family, but you're also building relationship. You're building trust with your kids. And guess what? That's going to go a long way in your relationship. So it's about leadership. It's about relationship, but it's also about just deciding and discerning what is good because, let's think maybe, it could be that your kid has been going over to friends' houses all the time. Well, that's been shut down. And now you've been together as a family more. It doesn't mean that you can't, he can't start to go over to friends' houses, but maybe you don't do it as much as you did before. And and how do you do that? Hey, son or daughter, wow, haven't it been great when we've been outside? One of my friends was talking about they play Foursquare. They've got this big Foursquare pit out, and they it's become an every night thing while they do that. What's been your thing? Maybe it's games or whatever. We've really enjoyed doing that. We'd love to keep doing. Wouldn't you love to keep doing that a little bit? Yeah, that sounds good. Just making it positive, getting away from hey, of dictating things and letting it come to light. Now, doesn't mean you don't lead. It doesn't mean you don't direct. If God's told you some things. Eventually you got to put that in the family because, it's the direction of the Lord. But how do you get there? You get there through questions. You get there through, so often when you do that, it'll be the kid's idea. It'll be your spouse's idea. And then you're not having to impose things on them. You get to agree on it, and everybody will. And that's top-notch leadership. It's top-notch leadership when you can get your team to go with you rather than have to impose it. Any leader can say, it's my way or the highway. But when you can do it in a way that you're asking questions and building unity in your team, top-notch leadership. And so that's what we want to strive for. So think about the different things that you are doing now, and think about this. What have you learned? Think back to one dad told me, he said, man, I've learned to survive because I've got little kids and that's all I've been able to do. Totally get that. And you may have been, and I feel like that in so many ways, because I have had lots of different challenges with kind of the government. I've done a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff in finance and real estate. And so it seems like every day the government's given new regulations. I feel like I work for the government instead of working for the real estate company that I work for, because it seems like I'm doing things for the government instead of for our properties and things. But, so I don't know where your challenges came. Maybe it's because you have little kids and they've been at home, or maybe you've had to work from home. But whatever it is, I get it. And it's okay. But what if now that changes and you say, look, it's been 2 months or maybe more. What's happened and what have we learned? And just take some time with God and ask that question. What have I learned that we like about this new life? And what have we missed? And what do we really want? But having that criteria that if it's not, we're not going to add it back. And this is kind of how I'm going to wrap up today with this little short podcast about just evaluating your last couple of months. Is I'm gonna make, instead of just adding it back by default, what's the criteria we're going to use as a family before we add something back? What are we going to say is the value of this to add back into our family so that we don't get back into just a rat race? It's everything. It's what are we going to do about attending and watching sporting events? What are we going to do about our Netflix and what we're watching there? What are we going to do about, gymnastics or band or, music lessons or sports? Or, are we going to do all that training? Are we going to just, maybe we're going to do a rec league instead of select, or whatever that is God's saying to you. And we talked about, just in summary, asking God, asking your spouse, asking your kids, and to go to it with an open-ended, we call them inquisitive questions instead of maybe accusatory questions or maybe demanding questions. Go into it with an open heart. Go into it with an open heart to God and saying, God, what do you want me to add back to our lives in this family? That's being a leader of your home. And that's being a mom or dad that's going to build trust with your spouse. That's going to be a parent that's going to build trust with your kids. And you're going to build a new way of life for your family. Summer, it's been like I keep telling people we're having a 5-month summer because it started in March and it's going to go through August. So, man, it'd be a good time, parents, to really think about, what does summer look like? What does fall look like for your home? Because otherwise, summer's going to get a little bit monotonous because it's been a long time. I challenge you to go and think about, ask God, ask your spouse, ask your kids, what is going to be different? Because what do we learn from the coronavirus? And what is the pace of life for our family going to look like? What are the activities for our family going to look like going forward? Hope this helps. And you'll have some of these questions in your show notes if you want to go back to them. And hopefully this will help you to get a good plan for the summer and beyond as we learn from the coronavirus and move on. Thanks, parents. Have a great week. See ya.